Chapter 21:30. 3 I'm going to eat. What do you want to say? Zheng Lu asked in confusion. Bing Li Huan said frankly, unless he has learned about the entire layout of the Wulwan Empire and is familiar with its defense system. Zheng Lu said, that's even more impossible. Even those captured generals would not reveal any intelligence about the empire. I know their loyalty very well. Zheng Lu has absolute confidence in this. Furthermore, no one thought their so-called opponent would be the Huashu Kingdom. If they hadn't been wary of the fourth-generation reptilian intelligent creatures living underground, they would have wiped out the Huashu Kingdom long ago. Brad asked in return, what if someone among the other party's mutants can peek into memories? Everyone at the scene frowned even deeper. They really can't completely avoid this situation. Mutation is non-directional and cannot be measured by any standards, and you cannot imagine what kind of roles will exist among humans. They couldn't help but start thinking, if there really was a warrior from the Wulwan Empire who leaked the Empire's internal intelligence, how should they solve the problem? Zheng Lu rubbed his brows and said, during this period, the security level of this empire will be raised to the second level. The second level is already a very high level. As for the first level, it will only be activated when the Wulwan Empire encounters a huge crisis and is at risk of national destruction. Although Zheng Lu and others thought of various possibilities and pointed out the threat posed by Zhang Yi's infiltration, they still had contempt for human beings. They did not think that the humans of Huashu Kingdom had enough strength or courage to enter the underground world and fight a decisive battle with the Wulwan Empire. It was just a precaution to let Brad set up such a trap. No one in the Wulwan Empire knew that war would soon break out and both sides had their own plans. However, the Wulwan Empire outside is still prosperous. Ordinary people don't know what is happening in the outside world because knowing too much will cause panic. However, in the past 3 years, the number of conscriptions has increased significantly, and those lizard men with powerful mutation talents have also received more favorable treatment. As long as you demonstrate sufficient ability, you can even enter a special academy that only the royal family can attend. In the Eastern Military District of the Wulwan Empire, the commander of the 32nd Legion, Juan E, had just concluded a combat meeting. After their military district commander returned from the military headquarters, he immediately summoned all middle and senior level officials of the Eastern Military District and conveyed the order of Marshal Zheng Lu, asking them to strengthen their vigilance. Juan E knew very well why this was the case. After all, more than half a year ago, he was just an adjutant, following his general to command a legion. However, in the battle against humans, his main general was killed, so he who was at the level of White Chariot took his place. Juan E was very nervous, thinking that war could break out again at any time. Although he didn't want to go to war as a soldier, he had to go when the time came. After conveying the task from his superiors, he dragged his tired body back home at around 10 o'clock in the evening. After opening the door, the house was dark, but Juan E felt a figure standing in the shadow in front of him. Juan E smiled and used his smart device to turn on the light. He saw a small and cute lizard girl in pajamas, holding a rag doll in her arms, looking at him in front of him, her big eyes blinking and looking very cute. Juan E divorced his wife a few years ago because of his busy work. The divorce rate among lizard people is very high because their lifespan is over 200 years, and the breakdown of relationships between couples usually occurs within 7 years. Therefore, every lizard man will have an average of 5 spouses in his lifetime. However, Juan E didn't care much about these things because his daughter still lived with him. Every day when he finished his military duties and returned home, seeing his daughter's lovely appearance was the happiest moment in Juan E's life. Sally, why aren't you sleeping yet so late? Are you waiting for Daddy? Juan E opened his arms and walked towards his daughter. After the divorce, Juan E felt free and too lazy to find another marriage partner, but he still felt guilty for his daughter, who had lost her mother's company. After the war is over, let's find a mother for Sally. Juan E walked over and picked up Sally. But after Sally was held in his arms, Juan E soon realized that something was wrong. It's hard to tell what's wrong, but a father is too familiar with his daughter and can definitely feel the subtle differences. However, when he realized something was wrong, it was too late. Suddenly, A large amount of gray-black fog and dust escaped from Sally's body as if weathering, wrapping up her entire body. Juan E's pupils suddenly constricted. He opened his mouth but didn't even have time to shout before a large amount of smoke penetrated into his head from all 7 orifices. Hiss! The black smoke completely enveloped their bodies. Sally's eyes became empty, and then her whole body turned into black mist and penetrated into Juan E's body. After a few seconds, Juan E's body stopped struggling, and the black mist completely merged into his body. He stretched out his long tongue and licked his lips as if he had eaten something delicious, with an intoxicated expression on his face. Sure enough, it's right to come here. There are so many delicious foods here. So delicious. Dad, I really listen to you. You can't just eat humans casually, otherwise you'll get an upset stomach. But these big lizards are much more delicious than the humans you fed me in the past. There was a smile in the lizard's eyes, and he held his face in his hands, intoxicated. And this one is none other than. It was Juyu who had sneaked into the Wulwan Empire along the Star Island Mist Valley. Nuba, Juyu, a resurrected one, possesses abilities even more powerful than Yuan Kungya. Female Professor Li Lingxue developed her potential in the laboratory, so she can devour the abilities of all aliens almost without restrictions. And her ability is not just mimicry, but invasion, plundering other people's bodies, essences, and memories. Using the same method, Juyu has devoured many high-level aliens in the place with the most powerful people in the Wulwan Empire, the military. Every time she devours a person, she will mimic the other person almost perfectly. Since she has the memory of the person she devoured, it is difficult to discover that she is a pretender. Juan E was the first Epsilon-level mutant she devoured. Keep going, she thought excitedly. Juyu opened the door to Juan E's daughter's room and lay down on the bed. She had already planned to have a feast tomorrow. Chapter 2134. A Gluttonous Feast. The next morning, at the 32nd Army Command of the Eastern Military Region. As soon as the commander of the 32nd Army, Juan E, arrived at the office, he immediately ordered all soldiers with the rank of lieutenant colonel and above to gather at the training ground. Although the officers didn't know what Juan E wanted to do, considering the recent wind direction, they still hurried over. In the era dominated by Inhumans, the training ground was a very important place. Even Inhumans of Epsilon's level would often come here to train. The strength of the physical body and the proficiency of supernatural powers require day-to-day practice to maintain. Once you slack off, you will not perform well in battle. Hundreds of officers gathered here and greeted each other after meeting each other. What brings you here today? I don't know. I'm wondering too. Why is he not in the meeting room, but at the training ground? Could it be that the commander is going to give us special training? Ha ha ha. Don't say that. We don't know when we'll be going to war. Think about the people we sent out last time. Sigh. The training ground is large, and hundreds of officers gathered here without feeling crowded. They are all the most powerful aliens in the 32nd Army, and there's even a deputy commander whose strength has reached the level of White Chariot. On the high stands in front of the training ground, Juan E was lying on the railing overlooking the place. He scanned all the people present and recalled information about them in his mind. Mars, Sisikaku, Kulis. These are all lizard men with an ability index of over 9,800 points. Very nice. After the officers gathered, someone looked up and saw Juan E on a high place. A senior officer who had a good relationship with Juan E immediately raised his hand and said, "Commander, do you have a mission for us?" As soon as he finished speaking, the lights in the entire training ground went out with a click. The huge training ground became dark. Juan E gripped the railing, his voice filled with a certain joy. "I'm going to eat." The next moment, shrill screams rang out among the crowd. Then screams rang out one after another. The officers didn't know what was happening yet. It was only when a large amount of warm blood splattered on their bodies and they smelled a fishy odor that they immediately realized that something was wrong. Ah! They screamed and fled in panic, but this place had already been a trap set by Juyu. In order to have a good meal, he arranged everything early and sealed off the entire venue. There was no one else except him and the food. A thrilling hunt. Someone released his supernatural powers to attack the surroundings indiscriminately, but in the flashing light, he saw a terrifying and hideous face. That's their commander Juan E. You. Before he could finish his words, everything went dark before his eyes, because his head was bitten off by Zhu Yu. Juan E's ability is eating. By eating, he can gain strength and become powerful. Now this ability also belongs to Zhu Yu. The officers screamed and fled in all directions, but they did not notice that their feet were covered by a large amount of black smoke. The moment the smoke touched their bodies, it invaded their bodies like a virus. Soon, their legs began to turn into plants, and finally their entire body took the shape of a tree. In less than 2 minutes, Zhu Yu killed all the aliens with more than 9,000 points in the 32nd Army of the Eastern Military Region. She licked her lips greedily. It tastes good, but the quality is a little poor. She raised her head, and the lizardman's eyes revealed greedy desire. It seems that we need to hunt some higher-level lizards. As she walked forward, her body was changing rapidly, becoming thinner and shorter. Soon, she turned into the appearance of the other lizard man she had devoured before. The location of the 7th Army of the Eastern Military District. Zhu Yu came here. She walked to the front of the military headquarters, and the system recognized her iris and determined her identity. Els, a female officer of the 32nd Army. I want to see General Stulon. General Juan E has important military matters for me to convey in person. The 32nd Army and the 7th Army were stationed at a great distance from each other. Hearing that someone was coming to convey military affairs in person, the people of the 7th Army did not dare to neglect it. Because things that need to be conveyed manually must be some important secrets. So the news was soon reported to Sterland. After hearing the news, Stulon showed a strange smile. Els is a rare female lieutenant colonel in the military. She not only has outstanding abilities, but also looks very beautiful. General Sterland had been coveting her for a long time, but he failed to get her because of Juan E's obstruction. I didn't expect that the other party would come to me on his own initiative. It seems like she's come to her senses and plans to work a few decades less. General Sterland immediately had Els called to his office. He took out a bottle of deodorant from the table and sprayed it carefully on his armpits several times, making sure that there was no unpleasant odor on his body before he felt relieved. Hiss, 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 hiss. Sterland hummed the popular military songs of the lizard men, feeling happy. He had decided that when Els became his woman, he would definitely ridicule Juan E. The door of the room was opened, and the beautiful female officer stood tall in front of him and saluted. General Stulon. General Sterland smiled broadly. Ms. Els, I've been waiting for you for a long time. You finally figured it out. Just when Stulon was happy, suddenly there was a prompt from his communication device. Stulon frowned with some disgust. Who would disturb his good time at this time? But upon closer inspection, it turned out to be an important warning order issued by the Eastern Military Region Command Center. He picked up the communication device and said to Els, "Wait for me, it will be ready soon." As he said this, he turned and walked to the window. "Hello, I'm Stulon, commander of the 7th Army in the Eastern Theater. What can I do for you?" A hurried voice came from the other side. "General Sterland, we just received intelligence that all officers above the rank of lieutenant colonel in the entire 32nd Army have died on the training ground." Sterland's eyes narrowed. "What? All? You mean all?" "Yes, the bodies of all registered officers above the rank of lieutenant colonel have been found." Stulon realized something, and his strong body suddenly turned around, stabbing directly behind him with the bayonet in his hand. But it's too late. The moment he turned around, Zhu Yu had already floated to his side like a ghost. He clenched his fist hard towards his enhanced body. Blood control. General Sterland's body was like a leather bag filled with blue liquid, which suddenly exploded after being squeezed by external force. Stay with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.